Okay, it's working. All right. Hello, everybody. We are doing live. We're doing the first live in a series where I'm going to go through some of these IELTS writing task responses that I got in, from a task that I sent out to all of my students just about a month ago. And I got tons and tons of essays. I got, there are over 7,000 students who are enrolled in my courses on my course website, davidscourses.com. And I just basically sent out like a series of emails, giving all of my students some advice on the IELTS. And even, I've got a bunch of students who are not really looking to take the IELTS. They don't need to take the IELTS. So it might not have been useful to them, but I'm sure they know somebody, a friend or family member who is preparing for the IELTS. So they were able to share those emails with the tips and advice that I shared with them. You can see behind me, this is what my office looks like. You can see my ring light over there and a bunch of boxes and things. It is a pretty messy place, but it gets what I need to get done. All right. Let's get into it, and I'm going to show you 2 mistakes today, and we're going to do more of these lives over the next few days, that way, or not the next few days, probably the next few weeks. I'm not really sure if I might or might not be traveling for the New Year's break, and if I am traveling, I won't be able to do these lives. But if I'm staying here, then I'll be able to keep up with that. All right. Let me just do a quick shout out to everybody on Instagram before we get started. Or actually, you know what? Don't worry. Those of you who are joining, hey Gerson, how you doing? Great to have you with us, man. For those of you who have joined me, I'm super grateful that you're here. Thank you. All right, let's get into it. Let me see if I can share my screen here. And Gerson, you just saw my email. Okay, great. Well, thank you. It's perfect timing. But even those of you who didn't see my email, you'll still be able to watch the recording of this on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And you'll be able to join all the future ones as well. I'll try to send those emails out a bit earlier. Gerson, how you doing? How you feeling today? What's been like the highlight of your? By the way, it's Christmas today. It's Christmas today. Merry Christmas, Gerson. Merry Christmas to you. I hope you got. Tell me, what are your plans for today? It's Christmas. What are you going to be doing? You got I don't know, presents to open, things to do with your family. What's it like over where you live? And while you're typing away, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get right into our first essay. All right, here we go. So just to check. Yep. All right, so you do see my screen. Wonderful. All right, so the name of this series is going to be the 23 most common mistakes made on the IELTS writing test. And why I'm doing this is to give all of you a little bit of a sneak peek into what I do every single week in my IELTS Like a Boss program. IELTS Like a Boss is a $10 a month subscription. And what we do is a live lesson like this on Zoom with all the members. And we do that every Sunday. Sonia, how you doing? It's great to see you here. Thank you for enrolling in IELTS Like a Boss. By the way, Sonia's just enrolled in IELTS Like a Boss. So Sonia, thank you so much. I'm really grateful to you for doing that. All right, let's get into our first essay. Today, we're looking at one mistake, which is called appropriacy. Okay, so I'm not going to give away any of the names of the students who sent me these essays because I want to protect their privacy. But if this is your essay, you're watching the recording of this, you will recognize it. Now, one thing that a lot of IELTS trainers, IELTS courses teach is they really kind of push this idea of using complex and advanced grammar and vocabulary just to score higher points. But if you actually look at the IELTS speaking marking criteria, the IELTS writing marking criteria, it doesn't say that you're supposed to just use, any random big words or idioms or complex grammar. If we actually read what it says for, let's say, the Band 9 section. All right, let's have a read. I'm going to share my screen with you. Hey, Mehfuz. Oh, wow, Mehfuz, thank you so much. I appreciate that, man. That's huge. Thank you. And thank you for making the time to join us. Hey, Sarab, great to see you as well. All right, I'm going to share my entire screen. Here we go. And all right, let's have a look at this. When you look at the marking criteria for Band 9, it says that you need to fully satisfy all the requirements of the task, clearly present your fully developed response. You need to use cohesion, and this is, by the way, just for task 1, but task 2 is going to be rather similar. It needs to attract no attention, skillfully manage paragraphing, okay? And then when we get to this section over here on lexical resource, which is to do with your word choice and your grammatical range and accuracy, right? Look at what it says. It says uses a wide range of vocabulary with very natural and sophisticated control of lexical features. The key word here is natural. It's not just using a wide range of vocabulary. It has to be natural. Rare minor errors occur only as slips. All right, this is for Band 9. And then grammatical range uses a wide range of structures with full flexibility and accuracy. Right, full flexibility and accuracy. Accuracy, again, is a key word. So you're not going to meet this criteria if your word choice isn't natural, and you're not going to meet the criteria if your grammar choice or your grammar use isn't accurate. And meaning appropriate for the meaning you're trying to convey. Now, I'm showing you Band 9 because when you actually take the IELTS, you should be aiming for a 9. You can't think to yourself, oh, it's good enough if I get a 7, or it's good enough if I get an 8. You need to be aiming for a 9, because even if you fall a little bit short of that, you'll still meet the criteria, the minimum criteria for your visa, right? All right. Ganesh says he's not an IELTS aspirant yet, but you're here just to hang out and listen. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. All right, let's look at this essay that was sent in by one of my students. And the topic of the essay was, why do you want to prepare, or why is the IELTS important to you? Or why do you want to prepare for the IELTS, right? And if we look over here, this particular student was really struggling with appropriacy with their word choice. And we're going to go through this entire essay. All these yellow bits that I've highlighted, these are notes to myself and areas that I think can be improved. All right. So first of all, she starts off with saying many foreign countries consider the IELTS score as the key aspect to process PR. All right. Now, the word foreign to her, where she lives, refers to other countries, right? But the thing is that for somebody reading this, foreign, let's say if the person reading this is in the UK, for them, foreign is everywhere else, right? So one thing that it hasn't been made clear here is what the word foreign is in reference to, right? And so the word foreign is actually unnecessary here. Instead, a more appropriate or natural word to use here would be many English-speaking countries consider the IELTS. Score is, again, it's unnecessary. You can actually just say, consider the IELTS as not the key aspect, because when you say it's the key, it means that's the one key. I mean, it's one of many different items on a list of criteria to move into the country or to get a work visa or a student visa. You need to, for example, if it's a work visa, you need to have a university degree. The qualification needs to be in a particular field. For example, in Australia, if you have a bachelor's in, let's say, aviation management, which is what I have, you're not eligible to get a work visa or to get PR or any of that. It's regardless of what your IELTS score is, you're not going to meet the criteria because there's a whole bunch of other important key criteria. If you don't meet those, you're not going to get the PR or you're not going to get the work visa. So we can't use the word the here. We need to use is a key aspect, or it's, and in fact, you don't even need the word as. You can just say, consider the IELTS a key aspect or a key. But the word aspect, it's a really broad word. Aspect can mean part, but let's be a bit more specific and use perhaps a more specialized word choice, a key criteria. Now that tells us exactly what it is. Another word she could use here is requirement. Okay, it's not just an aspect. What kind of aspect is it? Is it part of, let's say, the eligibility criteria? Is it perhaps something that is just part of the process, and it's regardless of what score you get, you can just get the PR anyway? What kind of aspect? So we want to be specific here by using criteria or requirement. And to process PR, again, PR, if you know what PR is, then, and you know it stands for permanent residency, that's fine. But when we're writing for the IELTS, or when we're writing in general, we've got to assume that our reader doesn't know what some of these abbreviations are. So unless it's a really common abbreviation. So it's probably a good idea here to say, instead of to process a PR, it's a key requirement to getting or issuing. And probably not getting, it's issuing, because our subject here is many English-speaking countries. To issuing permanent residency. Okay. Now that sentence can be improved a little bit more, but we're going to leave it at that for now. That's good enough for our purposes. This test ensures the capability of a person to communicate in English-speaking country. Now, first of all, we want to capitalize that E. We want to use an English-speaking country. But the test itself doesn't actually ensure. So by using the word ensure here, as the examiner, I'm going to think this candidate doesn't actually know what the word ensure means. All right, think about it. To ensure something means that you make sure it is true or it is the case. So for example, you could say to your employees, before you leave the office, ensure that the door is locked, ensure that you turn off, or ensure that the lights are turned off, right? Now the test itself doesn't ensure that you are able to communicate, but it is that you're able to get it's only ensuring that by, let me backtrack a bit. The immigration department of the country ensures that you're able to communicate from looking at your score, or from seeing that you have a score of 7 or above, right? This is the information that they need to ensure that you're able to communicate. The test itself doesn't ensure anything. The test itself is just a test to find out what level of English you have, and we don't really know whether you can or cannot communicate in an English-speaking country just from the test itself. Does that make sense? I mean, I've probably not explained that as well. But anyways, my point is, we can perhaps use a better word choice here. We can say this test assesses, my spelling's probably off, but assesses the capability of, or I would prefer to write, assesses the candidates, or the visa application candidates, let's use because we're still talking in general, a visa application candidate's ability to communicate well in English, or to communicate well enough in English to live in an English-speaking country, or to live or work or study in an English-speaking country. By the way, on the actual IELTS, you should not use these slashes here. I'm writing those slashes in just so that you know there's different alternatives you can use here, okay? This test has two different categories, one for students who want to study abroad, named the academic, and the other one is general. We're not really talking about two categories here. Wait a minute. I'm not actually sharing my screen. I keep forgetting to do this, by the way. You know what? I'm just going to share my entire screen, like so. There we go. There we go. That way I don't ever forget. We're not actually talking about categories when we talk about the IELTS, because if we think about the word category and what it means, oops, that's another note from another lesson I taught. All right, think about it this way. So a category just means group, right? So a very simple word to describe a category is a group. So then if we say that the IELTS has two categories, one category named the academic, one named general training, then that means that there are two groups of IELTS, right? So that would mean that we've got one group of many different tests, and all of these tests here are called the academic, or part of the academic category. And then we've got another group of many different tests, and these are all part of the general training category. That's not the case, right? Instead, we actually have two types of IELTS tests. So so we should probably, two types, this test. This test is offered in two different types. One for students who want to study abroad. We want to add a comma here, named the academic. We don't really want to say the academic. All right, let's change this entire sentence here. All right. Let's say there is the academic test, which is for students who want to study abroad, and the other one is the general training version, which is required for people who want to migrate to a country and want to, instead of make a career, it's more natural to say build a career, build their career, instead of over there. Just let's just use there. Over there sounds very conversational, and it sounds very conversational and informal. All right, so we don't want to say that there. Now here, when she starts this new sentence, I, as an IT professional, always had a dream to work with Canadian IT companies. This is not a very tidy way to write. This can be used, this type of language can be used in legal documents where you're making a declaration. I, David, promise to tell the truth and only the truth. You know, that sort of declaration, right? But you wouldn't use that. You wouldn't use that here on an IELTS task. Definitely not in an academic task. You wouldn't even write that on the general task either. So it's I. Instead, it probably sounds better to say, as an IT professional, I have always had, instead of always had a dream, I've always dreamt of working with working at a Canadian IT company. I didn't get the opportunity to go, but so far haven't gotten the opportunity to do so yet. We don't actually need to say go from the companies I've worked in India. And in fact, this using the in, that again is not a very tidy way to write that. So, but instead it probably sounds better to say this. So I have planned to get the PR for Canada first and then secure a job there. No, we want to say, all right, let me show you what the student has done. The student has probably received advice from their IELTS coaches or trainers saying that you need to use the past perfect or the present perfect as much as you can to show off that you have a high level of grammar. To a certain extent, yes. I mean, the examiners do want to see advanced grammar in order for you to get a good score on the IELTS. Lale, love, thank you for wishing me Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well. So yes, the examiners do want to see you use advanced grammar, but the one thing you should not do is to force advanced grammar in places where it doesn't belong, right? So the most appropriate grammar structure to use in this section here is not I have planned to get the PR. Instead, you could just say I am planning, right? I'm planning to, or you could say I'm aspiring. Aspiring means you're hoping and you're also trying, right? It's kind of those two ideas put together, to aspire towards something. I'm aspiring to be a professional football player. I'm aspiring to be a fluent English speaker, right? So that's how you use that word there. I'm always fascinated to get the PR. I'm aspiring to obtain, let's not use the word get, let's use obtain permanent residency in Canada so that I can realize my dream of living and working there. By the way, the spelling of realize, these words that end with I-Z-E or I-S-E, the British spelling is with an S, the American spelling is with a Z, and my Microsoft Office settings are set to American English, which by default, but I studied in Brunei where we use British English, so I'm going to spell it with an S. Realize my dream of living and working there. I'm always fascinated and attracted towards the working culture and environment for the employees in a Canadian company. Now, this is an effort to make an overly long and complex sentence just for the sake of it. Grammatically, this isn't too bad. I'm going to let this slide, but in terms of how natural this sounds, not really. I would probably prefer to write something like, I'm always fascinated and attracted. I'm always fascinated by, instead of, you know what, this would be a good opportunity to use the present perfect continuous. I have always been, right? Meaning you started being fascinated in the past and now you are still fascinated by it. I've always been fascinated with or fascinated by the working culture and environment for the employees in a Canadian company, by the working culture and environment, instead of by the working culture in Canada. Okay. A large number of Indians have been migrated. Now here is where we don't use the present perfect continuous, right? If you say they have been migrated, it means that somebody else picked up these Indians. Whoops, I'm not sharing my screen. Again, I keep forgetting to do that. Okay, let's do that. So if you say, if you say some Indians have been migrated to Canada, it means somebody else, some company or perhaps a person picked up a group of Indians and then took them to Canada. And that's not the case. Each of us make a decision on our own to migrate to a country, right? So what we should say in this bit over here is a large number of Indians have migrated, right? They did it themselves, have migrated to Canada and are living. Okay, the reason why Indians have migrated, the reason why we need to add this word "are" is because we don't have usually there's a be ing, right? To be doing, to be living, to be working, right? I am working. We need to have the be verb there. So the word "are," the be verb, hasn't occurred anywhere here in the beginning of the sentence, right? So we still need to say a large number of Indians are living their lives, their life. It's not their life, it's their lives happily, instead of over there, are living their lives happily there. Okay. As I love winter, so the winter. Okay. We use this expression as something to talk about the reason, right? The word as is used like because in this case. We also use the word so to communicate that same kind of idea. We use so and because and as to talk about the reason for something, right? So we can't use both of them here. They both are used for the same purpose. So you've got to choose one. As I love winter. Okay, as I love winter, and that's what this candidate has done up here. As an IT professional. Actually, no, that's not what they've done there. Sorry, cancel that. But as I love winter, the weather of that country. Let's say this different. As I love winter, Canadian weather is also, right? Because this isn't the first thing that you've mentioned that you admire or attracts you about Canada. You've already talked about the work culture, right? This is the second benefit or the second thing that you like about, the prospect of living in Canada. So you want to add this word also. The Canadian weather is also one of the aspects which attracts me more than anything with the other facilities. Now, here's a sentence where the examiner would look at this and think, I have no idea what you're talking about. Let's see, how can we fix this so this actually makes sense? Canadian weather, as I love winter, Canadian, okay. The Canadian climate. When we talk about seasons, about there being 4 seasons compared to the southern part of India where we don't have 4 seasons, we only have like 2 seasons. The Canadian climate is one of the aspects which attracts me more than, is one of the country's charms which attracts me more than anything else. More than anything else. That is the reason why I have started preparing for the IELTS. Okay, here's the little problem. She's done the same thing that she did in the previous sentence. Before, she said, as I love winter, and then she used the word so. Both of these expressions are used to talk about the cause, right? But she's done that here as well. We use the word to here to talk about the purpose or the reason, right? She's preparing for the IELTS. Why? To be eligible for applying for permanent residency in Canada. But she's also used the expression, that is the reason why. We don't want to use that twice in the same sentence because that becomes redundant. So let's say it like this. That's the reason why I've started preparing for the IELTS. All right. In fact, let's get rid of that's the reason why. In order to become eligible for permanent residency in Canada, and you know what's interesting? The candidate has used this abbreviation PR in every other instance, but this one place in the middle, not even in the beginning, but here in the middle, they've written permanent residence. if you're going to be writing the full form and using an abbreviation later in your essay, it makes sense to write it right here in the beginning and perhaps use PR in brackets. And then later on for the rest of your essay, you can use the abbreviation. But it doesn't make sense to use PR in the beginning and then only define what that means later on in the middle of your essay, okay? But generally, I would recommend not using PR unless it's like an official abbreviation. Like IELTS is an official abbreviation. The USA is an official abbreviation. So you can use those, but you don't want to use, something like PR. PR is like a colloquial abbreviation, something that we use in speech to make it easier to talk about. You'd very rarely go on an immigration website, like the official website for the government's immigration department, where it uses the term PR to talk about permanent residency. You'd very rarely find that. Okay, let's get back to where we left off. A large number of Indians have migrated to Canada and are living their lives happily there. Oh, that's right. In order to become eligible for permanent residency in Canada, I've started preparing for the IELTS, and that's the end of the sentence right there. Apart from Canada, many other countries like Australia, USA, the UK do not use etc. if you're going to say many countries like. When you say the word like, you're saying that there are many countries, okay? All of these countries require the IELTS, like this one, and this one. When you use the word like, we know already that you're only talking about a few of them. And we know that there are others which you haven't mentioned. So you don't need to write etc. at the end as well. That is another case of redundancy where it's not necessary. So let's get rid of this, like Australia, the UK, and the UK allow the IELTS score as the basic requirement for PR. They actually don't. You could just say require the IELTS, require a sufficiently high IELTS score. Require a sufficiently high IELTS score for issuing permanent residency. Different countries accept different scores, along with you're using the word different twice. That's not very eloquent, but it's okay. You would want to try to avoid that where you're using the same exact word, especially if it's an adjective, so close to each other in the same sentence. You try to avoid that. I'm going to let this one slide though, along with some other requirements. Aha, okay. So here she says it's along with some other requirements. Okay. Let's write this whole thing differently. The exact, actually, I'm going to stop highlighting that. The exact requirements vary from country to country. Okay. And 8+, say a band score of over 8 or of 8 or higher is considered a good band to apply for permanent residency in Canada. This test has 4 parts. Aha, okay. Remember what we said about the word like. When we list something using the word like, that refers to there being many things and you are only listing some of them, meaning you are not listing the others. But look at what the student is listing here. Listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Those are all the parts on the IELTS, right? So we should not be using the word like here, okay? You could say this test has 4 parts, or you could say the IELTS, instead of the word has, let's use the word consists of 4 parts. And you can use a little hyphen: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Each of the parts comes with a separate score, and the average of all the parts will be considered. Perfect, okay, we can keep that. It is approximately a 3 hours test. This is a common mistake we often see. When we use a number and a counter together, and we kind of use this whole phrase as an adjective to describe the test, we don't use the plural. And I know that's confusing because we're using a number here that's higher than 1. And we know that if we use a higher number than 1, we should use the plural, but we're not counting. We're not saying the test lasts for 3 hours, right? Instead, we're using this phrase 3 hour as an adjective to describe the test. It's kind of like saying it's a difficult test, right? It's a long test. It's a boring test, right? So in the same way that we use the word boring or hard or long, we're substituting that with the length of the test. So when we use numbers and units as an adjective, we want to, one, use a hyphen, and we also want to always use the singular form. So we don't use the plural here. Okay, and we're almost getting to the end. It is very important for me to get the desired band. When we talk about tests, the appropriate preposition to use is on the IELTS. There are 4 parts on the IELTS. There are difficult questions on the reading section of the IELTS, or in the reading section of the IELTS. So we say that in the reading section on the IELTS, right? On the test, on the exam, so that I can apply. For me to get the desired band, it's not desired, right? It's required, right? So desire is something you want, and I'm sure you do want, but it's more than just that. It's not just something you want, it's something you need, right? So we want to say the word required. Band on the IELTS so that I can apply for, again, we're going to write it in full permanent residency. I am really trying very hard to make my preparation in a way so that I can acquire the band of 8+. It is my lifetime dream to get settled in Canada. That is the reason why I'm working hard to prepare myself for the test. Now, it seems like the candidate is starting to repeat themselves, right? You were saying to make my preparation, and trying really hard, and the exact same thing occurs here. That is why I'm working hard to prepare for the test. So let's say it this way. Let's use a big word. It is my lifetime dream to get settled in Canada, and I absolutely need to get, or you can say, is Canada, and that is the reason why I am working hard to prepare myself for the test and score an 8, or score at least an 8. There we go. That's probably a little bit better. That's probably a better way to end that. Okay. All right. And hey, Yin Yin, thank you for joining. Hey, Ram, is that you, Ram? Is that really you? It's been forever since I've seen you, man. You should join our live sessions again. I've missed you. All right. And Ajit, please give, Ajit, I'm going to talk about my course in just a moment. Okay. Last little thing that we're going to look at is one other really common mistake that I see. I'm going to share my screen again, just like so. Capitalization, okay. Have a look at what this candidate, this is a different essay, and we're actually going to look at this in more detail later on. But simply, when you start a new sentence, you should use the capital letters. Right here as well, it's capital I. When you use the word, when you talk about the nationality of a person, we should for Australia, it's a country, we use the capital A, and it's the same when we say the word Australian teenagers, right? We're starting a new sentence here, so we need to use a capital T. Starting a new sentence here, use a capital I. So please, really simple rule. Whenever you start a new sentence after a full stop, you should use capital letters. And when we have names, such as names of countries, names of nationalities, we have to use a capital letter in the beginning, okay? Really simple rule. Please do not forget that. All right. There we go. We are done for the 2 mistakes that we looked at today. Number 1, just to recap, it is appropriacy. Your word choice shouldn't just be complex and big. Your grammar shouldn't just be complex and long and advanced. It needs to be appropriate, needs to be accurate, needs to be natural, right? And that is something that comes with understanding words, not just by just memorizing them from a list or from flashcards. You need to be learning these words in context. And there's something I talk about in my course, the Fluency Blueprint. I call it the RRC method, real, relevant, contextual. If the way you learn vocabulary and expressions and grammar is real, relevant, contextual, you're going to internalize the appropriate choice of your words and your grammar. If you think about how you use your native language, you're not memorizing grammar rules and memorizing words from their definitions and translating everything, right? That's not what you're doing. You naturally know that in this situation, I should use this choice of words, or I should use this word here. And you've learned that using the RRC method. You probably weren't thinking about it, but that's actually how we naturally learn our first language. And when we learn a second language, if we apply the RRC method in all of our studying activities and our training activities, then we're actually going to acquire a natural use of the grammar and also the vocabulary. All right. Now, if you found this useful, where we're going through an actual response to an IELTS question or an essay, and we're analyzing it, and we're looking at alternative words and the more appropriate grammar structures to use. If you found this useful, and if you want to do this live, where you get feedback on your IELTS responses, not just for writing, but speaking as well, and you want to do that with me every week and with other community members we have, you got to check out IELTS Like a Boss. IELTS Like a Boss. So the 2 things that you want to check, well, actually, yeah, you want to check out the IELTS Like a Boss program. So Sonia has just enrolled in the course. Sonia, what you'll need to do after you're enrolled, in fact, let me just do it this way. Okay. So what you do is, first of all, you head to IELTS Like boss.com. Okay, that's how you enroll, and the course fee is $10 per month. You can cancel anytime, so even if you want to just take it for 1 month, that's okay. 2 months, that's okay. And we do a live lesson every Sunday, all right, 8 p.m. Japan time. All right, and all of the lessons are recorded. So even if you miss it or if you come late, you can still watch the replays later on. And to access the replays and also to access the instructions on joining the lessons and everything, you just head to davidscourses.com, and you can log in on davidscourses.com. And then once you log in, you'll see the course that you're enrolled in, and you can just access the lessons from there. Okay. So Sonia, you should have received a confirmation email, and you just got to start. There are 3 courses on the website. Which one should I start? You can start on any one of them. You have access to all of them, and I would recommend that you use all of them. So, just go through them. Start from the Fluency Blueprint. That is the one where I talk about the RRC method, the most fundamental thing in developing a natural word choice and natural use of grammar. And once you have gone, as you go through the Fluency Blueprint, you're going to learn about some of my other courses as well. Go through the Fluency Blueprint. There's another group that you have access to where we do a conversation practice session as a group. We do that twice a month. And then there's IELTS Like a Boss, which is specific training for the IELTS. So you can start going through all of them at the same time. It just depends how much time you have. Okay, so if you're able to, try to set aside at least 1 hour a day, or 30 minutes to 1 hour a day, so you can go through all of the lessons and all of the courses and really get the most benefit out of the course. Because I know you're only planning to be enrolled for 1 month, and that's okay. But like I said, the IELTS is a difficult exam. I'm not sure if 1 month will be enough for you to get the score you need. There's a lot of work that you need to do. Okay, but do your best. And of course, during our live sessions, please do join us, and you can ask me questions. I'll do my best and offer the best advice that I can. Okay. All right, you got my word. Okay, Merry Christmas to all of you. I gotta go. And I really do wish you all the very best. We've got 5 more days for 2020. And please stay safe. Spend time with your families. And you know I love you. You know I care about you. Take care, everyone. And we'll do more of these in the next few days as well. All right, take care. And thank you all for joining me today. Have a wonderful day.